I got all these great answers to all these great questions. It's time to answer some. I got all these great answers to all these great questions. It's time to answer some. Q&A number 2, here we go.
We're back. Here we are. But we live here, so why wouldn't we be here?
This is your bus life. ASMR.
This is not the Bus Life ASMR channel?
No, that's a different one.
Oh, question one.
We got answers you're going to love, answers you're going to hate, answers that you might not care about, but we're going to give you something, and hopefully it's fun. I don't know.
We're going to give it a shot.
All right, let's get it. Question number 1. Roger from Philadelphia asks, how do you have Wi-Fi in your bus? Oh, Wi-Fi. How do you get cellular connection?
How do you have Wi-Fi and how do you get cellular connection in your bus? We camp places that we know has a strong cell phone signal, and if we know that we need to upload a video or do something on the internet and we get to a campsite that doesn't have service, sometimes we'll move to a different one. I am on Verizon. I think you're on Straight Talk,
Which I think kind of is just Verizon.
Yeah, so on Verizon, I have a hotspot through my cell phone. I also have an iPad that has its own service and another hotspot, because Verizon will give you 15 gigs and then they cap it, and that'll slow down your service a lot. So that's why I have my iPad, because it's another, I think it's a 30 gig hotspot. So it's just additional non-capped, slowed down internet connection. Through the hotspots, I can connect my computer to both of those devices and get internet on my computer. And so that's how we ever have Wi-Fi. That's how we're connecting our projector to the internet, is all on my iPhone and iPad hotspots.
Yeah, and then in addition, we have WeBoost. It's a cell boost antenna that we have mounted up on the roof. And we've never had anything like that before, but it's pretty cool. It's been really good. It'll usually take you from a bar, maybe 2 bars of service, up to maybe full bars if you just have a small amount. And if it's pretty good, it'll take you like really good.
Yeah, a few times it has taken us from no service to having enough bars to get onto the internet, or sometimes to stream videos even. So it's worked really well for us. Like Drew said, we never had a booster in our last van, and we really wanted it for this build, so we factored it into the budget. We'll link it in the description below so you can see the exact model that we have, but our experience with it has been really positive so far. Question number 2 is, what are your best tips for saving the most money on the road? Food, drink, or necessities?
Just keep your money in your pockets and then you'll be good. But really, it's just like if you live in an apartment or a house, you know, don't spend money on things you don't really need unless it's something you really want. And just like eating out, you spend a lot of money eating out. Try to limit that and try to make your meals from Whole Foods, not the grocery store, because that's super expensive, but buy Whole Foods, prepare meals that are made from those, and you're going to save a lot over like pre-packaged kind of stuff.
Right. In the beginning, I think we sort of had this road trip mentality, and so we were eating a lot of fast food, eating out all the time. Every place is new and you want to try the food. We personally love eating out, and so we had to ditch that very quickly, because not only was it unhealthy, it was also really expensive. So we grocery shop just like you would do living in a house or an apartment, and we cook most of our meals, so now eating out is more of a treat, and that has saved us so much money. Another thing that is advice more towards traveling around and doing touristy things like national parks is to get a national parks pass, because how expensive is it to get into the Grand Canyon?
I think it's like 35 or something like that.
Yeah,
now.
if you just pay one time to get into the Grand Canyon, it's like $35. And so if you go to the Grand Canyon, you go to Yosemite, you go to Yellowstone, you know, you start stacking stacking up these national parks, it adds up. And a national parks pass is only $80 for the whole year, I think.
Yeah.
So if you visit even 2 or 3 national parks, it will have paid for itself.
Yeah, it applies to a lot of other places that aren't national parks, recreational areas, like places kind of like Lake Mead, where maybe it's $10 to camp for a week. There's a lot of places like that you'll save that $10, $5, $15, and it adds up. So definitely worth getting one of those if you're trying to travel to those sort of areas.
Gas is one of our most expensive costs when we're traveling really intensely. So the biggest advice that we can give is to stay in one place for a little bit longer. This is something that we figured out years down the line. When we first got into our van, we were just racing from place to place because we were excited and there was so much to see. And in recent years, we've slowed down and we'll stay in a spot even for maybe the full 14 days that public lands allow. We really dig into a place, you know, maybe go on some hikes, see the town, but doing that versus driving from state to state across the country constantly, we have saved a lot of money.
For sure, it's the thing you can control. It can be similar to rent. If you are moving a lot, it's definitely can be as pricey as maybe rent an apartment, but you can control it. So strategic with your movement. If moving means you have more work and what your work is, then maybe plan around that. But if you don't have work going, maybe find a nice place to settle in, whether it's the wilderness or it's outside a little town, whatever it is, and just kind of enjoy it. It's gonna be more enjoyable anyways, honestly.
A lot less stressful.
Also, possibly number 1 is do not pay for camping unless it's needed or providing another service for you.
I think a huge misconception about our lifestyle is that we are constantly paying to be at campsites or RV parks. And like Drew said, we will talk about that in another question a little bit more in depth. But we would not be living this lifestyle if we had to pay for camping. We are on public lands, we are on BLM land. Very occasionally, we might pay for a campsite in situations like Yosemite, where staying at the campsite is actually cheaper than driving in and out of the valley every day. Things like that, we will pay for a camp spot, but the majority of our lives, we are on free use land. Let's get on to question number 3.
What do we have?
Have you been able to take the same roads in the shuttle bus that you'd been able to in the van?
Yeah, simply put, I'd say yes. The van was a bit smaller, so sometimes easier to maneuver. But our clearance is a little higher on here, so it's been pretty much the same, and we've gone to a lot of the same places we've been before, so yeah, it's been actually pretty good off-road.
The biggest difference between our first van and this bus is mostly the width. We have dualies in the back, that's also different, but mostly this bus is just wider. It's a little bit longer, but we had a hitch carrier on our van, which made us almost the same length as this bus. So I think the capabilities are really similar.
Yeah, it's definitely probably just as good. The width really only comes into play more in a parking lot in a city.
Yeah, more in cities. We've been able to get to all our favorite camp spots and we haven't been limited by it at all.
We're still short enough. That's the big thing. You get too long, it gets more difficult on some of the roads. Next question. How often do you use your shower, and do you take military showers?
As quick as possible showers. Our goal in this bus is to be fully autonomous for as long as possible. So something that we're really aware of is our water consumption. We are not taking long, luxurious showers in this bus. Our shower is really beautiful, and so it's nice to be in there, but our showers are the shortest that they can possibly be. We use as little water as possible. So mostly you're turning the water on, you're rinsing your body, washing, rinsing again. And the water is getting turned on and off in between because you don't want to waste water when it's not readily available.
So we've mentioned before we have 75 gallons of fresh water, which was a pretty big upgrade from the van. That being said, showers, it can vary. I would say usually 3 or 4 days. But if we're near a readily available water source, you know, maybe every other day. It just varies based on what you're up to as well. If you're doing like a lot of hiking, you're going to want to shower. If you're just hanging out and it's cold, you can probably go an extra day.
It's really dependent on what we're doing, if we're seeing people, if we're just out in the wilderness by ourselves. But I would say the average is 3 to 4 days.
Next question is pretty simple. What do you guys do to keep your cabinets shut while you're driving?
We got these little latches off of Amazon. They just kind of pull over and hook and snap back. They've worked really well for our freezer and refrigerator cabinets. We'll link them in the description below. We like them, they're working, but our drawer underneath our stove doesn't have a place to secure a latch like that, so we had to get a different one, and we just have yet to install it.
Yeah, I got it. You're supposed to install it.
You're supposed to install
Okay,
it.
well maybe this week.
The next question is a multi-part question. Do you ever pay for camping? I'm confused about public lands and what BLM is. Do you ever park in RV parks? We do not usually pay for camping, almost never, and we have never stayed in an RV park. It's really expensive.
And not really our scene.
No. The entire time that we are out west, we are living on public lands. This is free use land where you can go to camp and recreate. There's a lot of categories to public lands. You find an already established campground. Don't go driving through the wilderness, destroying the plants and the area. You find an already established campground. Usually that means finding a fire ring, and then you can camp there as long as it's BLM land, which is the Bureau of Land Management. It's a wilderness area, and you have to make sure that you're not in a restricted area where camping isn't allowed, because in general, while it's allowed, there are some areas where it's not okay. So make sure you check before you go. The categories of public lands are expansive. There's a lot of different types. There's state forests, national parks, BLM land, which is the Bureau of Land Management. There's recreation areas and wilderness areas. There's a lot of different types, and there's not a lot of this land back east. There is some state forests, right?
Yeah, growing up back there, we didn't know what this was until we kind of came out west, and there is a little bit, but not nearly as much. In addition to all those, there's state trust land, and those are generally permitted areas. You might pay for a yearly permit. Those can vary from even within a state, so you have to check on those, but that's another option for sure.
In conclusion, do your research for the areas that you're going to. Find a fire ring and an already established campsite. Respect your public lands and the wilderness. Don't litter. Let's keep these spaces beautiful and clean.
Yeah, please, let's just try to take care of what we still have left, and let's go out and enjoy these places. There's a lot of amazing places out there, but yeah, just take care of them, keep them clean so we can enjoy them now and into the future. The next question is, what is the first thing that comes to mind that people should know about this lifestyle?
For me, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that this lifestyle is going to be different than you think it will be. A lot of people come to bus life and van life because they've seen it on the internet and on social media. And social media is a highlight reel. It's the best moments of everything. And everyday life is not like that. Any life that you choose is going to have struggles, whether you own a house or you own a bus. There's going to be difficult moments. So if you've been consuming that type of content on social media and then you decide to get a bus or a van, you get on the road and all of a sudden there's breakdowns and there's problems in your build or your power system fails, those are really difficult moments. And if you think that it's all going to be perfect, sunsets and beautiful camp spots, it's not. There's a lot of difficult moments that you have to work through, and that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions.
Well, for me, every day is perfect, so I can only speak from my own experience.
This question came from our latest solar video that we put out about our power system. How did you arrive at 1400 watts of solar? What's your biggest power draw?
So 1400 watts of solar, really we just got there trying to maximize our roof space. It's maybe more than we need, but it's always a good idea to over panel for a few reasons. One, cloudy days or intermittent sun, you're going to be able to capture as much as you can when there isn't necessarily an abundance of solar energy going on. And second is we have an air conditioner we're going to be running this summer, and that's going to be pulling 400 plus watts for several hours during the day. With having more panels than we need, it should be able to not be pulling from the batteries directly throughout the day, And then we have enough battery capacity to hopefully run the AC for at least a few hours at night, and just to keep it a little cooler in here so you can sleep a bit better.
I am so excited for the AC.
Yeah, but mostly because of air conditioning is why we built it as big as we did.
Next question is for Savannah.
Are renovations doable alone as a single woman? I really want to do this, but am I underestimating?
I think this is doable for people from all walks of life and ability levels. Obviously, this build was easier for us because we have 2 people, but I truly believe that I would be living this lifestyle whether I had Drew or not. I think I would have moved into van life as a solo female, probably buying something, starting off in something that was already built, but I have an interest in this sort of thing, so I think I always would have moved into building my own rig.
Honestly, I feel gender should have no bearing on this question. And I personally think it's ridiculous, the gender stigmas about like physical work in particular. But I would say it's more a question of being alone and doing it. And the answer is still yes. It'll be slower and probably more difficult, but it's really more about doing it alone or having help from another person or multiple people that's going to make it a smoother process and possibly quicker. But as far as a single woman, yeah, for sure. Single anybody. I don't think that should even be a thing. I think it's ridiculous that that's still a stigma or a stereotype.
It's not about gender, it's about your ability level and skill level. That's not to say if you have no experience, you shouldn't do this. It just might take you longer. So be prepared for that, having to do a little bit more research and take more time in your build. I think you absolutely can do this on your own.
All right, final question, number 10 out of 10. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready, let's do it.
For $1 billion, how do you get mail and vote, etc.?
We get mail a couple of different ways. One that we really love is general delivery at USPS, which is the post office. You can have a package addressed to a general delivery post office. You have to go on the USPS website and make sure that a post office accepts general delivery. Once you've confirmed that it does, you can have the package addressed to that post office. There's a very specific general delivery address. And then you can go to the post office once it's been delivered, you show your ID, and they give you your package. UPS and FedEx both have similar types of programs. There's UPS pickup points, and FedEx also has stores like that. So you can have those things shipped to the pickup points. Similar thing, you go in, you show your ID. I think UPS costs $5 to have a package picked up. So USPS is free. UPS and FedEx does have a very small fee.
As far as voting and other official things like that, we personally keep a home address at a family member's. If you have a physical address still, just use that. And you can also use a P.O. box. I know we did that for a period of time in the past, and some people do that. That's it for today, folks. Until next time.
We made it through all 10 questions. If you have more questions, and we know you do, leave them in the comment section below. We'll try to answer them in real time, and we'll save a few for the next Q&A.
And as always, do, what's that thing the YouTube people say?
Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Later.